right, good morning. So this is one of the more critical parts of the build. These are the trailing arm mounts, and literally almost all the horsepower that's propelling this car forward comes through these mounts. So they go together a certain way. It was a little tricky at first when I was trying to figure it out. And again, you got to make sure you don't build the same part twice, because you can configure these identical. So you got to make sure you build a left and a right. So this bottom piece slots in, which is nice. And that kind of keeps everything squared up. I've been throwing just a magnet here just to keep that square. I could use my fancy clamp blocks, but the magnets seem to work fine. So I throw two magnets on like that, and that kind of makes sure everything stays square and hopefully together. Then I'll take this piece and, do the thing. Oh, here we go. Oh, here, this way. That goes on like so. And locks in there. Which also helps to hold everything together. This piece goes on after. So what I've been doing is just rolling this up like that, so it all sits on that plate and stays square, because the magnets are kind of holding it where it needs to be, assuming this stays together. Then, once I kind of get where I like it, I'll clamp these two pieces together first, like so. That's not falling apart. Now I'll look at the bottom and just make sure I have this kind of on there square with this plate. So you want that plate to kind of be the same down both sides. So then you know that is on there correct. And now clamp that as well. If I can find a good place to clamp it. I think I was hitting it up under that before. So now let's see. Okay, now I can start tacking that up, getting it laid out so it stays nice, and I should be ready to, I really put a lot of tacks on this, as you'll see, just to make sure everything is in the right place and stays square when I start to really weld it off. There's a lot of welding on this little piece. So we'll do that. This is all 1/4 inch plate. I am using a 3/32 filler rod on it, just because I'm finding that makes the welds a little cleaner. And I'll just start tacking. The first tacks I throw down, I just do fusion tacks. I don't really need to add filler on unless it gets away with me from me, so I'm ready to do it. I'm going to put a little tack right here on this plate. See? double check my square magnets. Everything looks happy. So I'll throw a couple tacks there as well. Tacks in here. Don't do that. Dip my tip. Okay. First I'm going to tack down here. It's hard for you to see what I'm doing here, but just trying to strategically locate some tacks to keep this thing from ever moving while I start to weld it up. Okay. That. This. These. Yep, on the floor. Now I'll throw a few more tacks in strategic locations. Okay. Now I'll weld up the tab and slots just to get those out of the way. A while back, I figured out that if I put a little tiny USB light on the top of my helmet, it really improves vision a lot. Really like this welding table for this sort of stuff. It really just super easy with these holes in it. Especially when you're working on stuff like this. And again, you just take these little tab slots, fill them right in, use the tab real well to the sides, and then add filler rods to make up the material with that. kind of what I try to do. Two more. Nice. Last one of this. Okay. One more tab on the bottom. Deeper tab, deeper slot, shorter tab. All right, nice. Okay, so next thing I like to do, flip this over. This little tab goes in kind of kitty corner here. It's a little weird. It locks in like that. Now I want to just check the fit on this because that'll tell me if I'm still square. And it looks awesome. So I check this edge versus this edge. Make sure everything still rides right. Looks great. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tack in this little kitty corner tab that I put in there. Then I will start to I'll pull this back off, weld up all the interior pieces here that need to be in before I put this on for real. Filler rod. Let's hit this in. Jump. Good. Uh-oh. Ooh, shit. No. Okay. I'm okay. Don't panic. Looks like that slid out just a little bit on me. That's why now I'm going to add a tack at the top of that, just to make sure that doesn't happen again. There we go. Hit my tip. Okay. It's funny when you're first starting out with TIG welding, I used to, every once in a while, just touch touch the tungsten to the rod, or the rod to the tungsten. I do it a lot less now, but one thing you don't want to do is just keep going, because I don't know if you can see that, but that little bulge of steel on the tungsten will mess it up so bad. So I keep a number of them here sharpened, ready to go. Sometimes you get into it a lot, sometimes you don't do it for hours, but not good enough to avoid it. All right, so now I'm gonna just kind of start moving through this and weld up every seam I've got. And, I don't know how exciting this will be, but I was telling the guys last night on Firebird Friday, I really enjoyed TIG welding compared to MIG now. Like, I will take a few of these joints that I can't get to with the TIG because it's just too confined, and I'll grab the MIG and get in there and just nail those points. But every time I run the MIG now, I can't wait to shut the damn thing off and go back to the TIG. It's that much better. So, okay, probably the smart play here is to hit that bottom plate first. These corner joints like this, I find you really don't need a lot of filler rod. You've got plenty of material coming down to do a nice big joint. Again, these are things that, I'm a total beginner at this, but things I run into that you don't necessarily hear from the guys that give real instruction, because they're pros and they don't do stupid shit. They don't have to run into it. The thing I always struggle with is remembering to leave the torch on the thing until the gas cycle is done. If you pull it away too quickly, it'll sometimes pop and make bubbles. The other thing is, if your electrode's out too far and you don't have good gas coverage, you'll get bubbles. Porosity, bubbles hold in hand, as my buddy Bob used to say. These bubbles hold in hand, but and listen to it. It's so quiet you can hear what's going on. If you hear it start crackling and popping and it looks like a sparkler going off through the lens, you're getting porosity. So either you don't have your electrode in far enough, you're not got good gas coverage, you need more gas, any one of those things. All right, one more tab up here. I think I did, but I think I didn't do it there. But yeah, listen to the metal. Let me tell you what it wants. Okay, that's good. My welds don't exactly look like stacking dimes, more like wheat pennies. But they're very strong. I've tested them. I kind of understand what I'm looking for. You want that heat affected zone to be nice and consistent. Studied a lot of YouTube on this topic. YouTube University. Just jam these squares. They're like wedges. Hold it up as it's going. The other thing that it's much nicer if you can have a place to rest your wrist while you're TIG welding. A lot of times you just can't. If you can, you can. But you don't necessarily need to. Heat setting is another important thing. Typically, I'm at like a 195 right here. You want to be, that number is close to the thousandths that you're working with in material. So this is 250 thou, it's 1/4 inch, but this is only a 205. So I tend to run this at 190 for 1/4 inch. I find that works better for me. I don't overheat the material, but it doesn't go so fast that I can't keep up with it if I still. As you get a little better, you can go hotter, but I'm just super cautious with it because I want to do a nice job. I want to do penetration. The thing about TIG welding too is, after doing it on this job pretty much exclusively, I much prefer it over MIG welding. Every time I bring MIG welder in, I can't wait to shut it off. It makes a mess, it's loud, sparks flying through your hair, everywhere. Just a big mess. This is nice and quiet. There's no smoke. There's no anything. And you can do a really nice job at it once you get the hang of it. It's not that hard. It really isn't. But that's my 2 cents on TIG welding anyway. I enjoy it. I find it's more peaceful than MIG welding. A lot less painful. I don't have drops and drips flopping on the floor all the time. Cleaner, it's easier on the shop, it's easier on you. I will say it's a little more expensive. Just the amount of argon that I'm using, like right now, this bottle is probably going to be done today. And I've only had it for 2 weekends, 2 full weekends. So I'll have 4 or 5 days of welding on it. That's about it. That's a big bottle. And it's heavy. So that's my 2 cents on TIG welding. I am not a professional TIG welder. If you're looking for that, go somewhere else. I'm a proficient TIG welder. Just gonna stack wheat things on down. I do find mild steel to be much nicer to work with than aluminum or stainless, but they're all pretty much the same. There you go. And now I'm going to work into that corner, back towards me. Corners are always fun. I do find it a little quicker when you're working on an edge that is already a little warm. I just welded the back side of this one. The really nice thing about the TIG, it took me a little while to get the hang of the pedal, but when you start to notice it, I don't have that problem with a 1/4 inch. It's not hot enough anyway. If you start to get a little hot, you can back off the throttle a little bit. It's quite easy to do once you get the hang of it. When you get down into inside corners like this one, you can get your electrode out there a little further, the tungsten, and that doesn't hurt you because the gas stays pretty focused when you're working in a corner like this. I hate working in corners like this, but I really struggle to keep the tip out of the puddle. Don't pull your tip back far enough to get it out of the gas cone. When you're welding, keep your tip pretty close, not to the point where it's melting until you're ready to dip, but keep it in the argon cone, because if it gets contaminated, it's like everything else. It will start to bubble and cause porosity. just a few of the things I've learned. Again, these aren't things that the pros tell you because, you know, they're so used to doing it, they don't get into these stupid situations that I do. There's a lot of great classes online you can take for TIG welding. You can do them online, you can do them at your local trade shops, and schools will have them. You know, I recommend that, but I didn't do it. For some people, it's probably the best way to go. You can buy some really cool TIG welding practice pieces. Like I have a deer head with antlers over there that I've practiced on for thin stock. And I got this like octagon ball thing or multi-faceted ball for thicker stock. So there's plenty of ways to practice and get proficient at it before you strike off on a project like this. Most of the time I just plant my ground on my bench. Works fine. I tend to run about a 5-second post gas just to flush my material out and helps to cool the material a little bit and give it a chance to settle down. I find 5 seconds is usually pretty good for that. Now you can see when I get into corners, I'm slower, so my heat affected zone goes wider, way wider. But it's mostly just because I can't get in there well. Now I could probably put the stubby tail on the back of this thing, but I'm too lazy for that. I'm just going to keep digging. Got a little bit on there. When you get a little bit of, and it deforms your tip a little bit, what happens is your arc just becomes very strange. When it's a nice pointed tip and clean, you can keep your arc focused right where you want it. When it's contaminated, it's much harder to control. Up. When I'm all done, I'll go around with a wire wheel on a air tool and just clean up all the welds. It shines them right out, makes them look nice. They come out, my welds come out a little gray. I'm sure that's because I'm not quite using enough gas or something like that. Really like to clean those up at some point. You can see the material gets quite hot. TIG has a like a timer on it. It'll go up and down based on a time that you can program. I don't use any of that. It just annoys me every time I try it. It's never in sync with what I want to do. Okay, that plate's in there. Spin this around now. That is hotter than a cannon. So what I'm going to do now is kind of go down through this pocket and try to get as much of that as I can. Yeah, you want this piece welded up really well. I mean, literally all of your horsepower comes through this. There is a 4-barrel on the front of these Dana 56s, but the majority of your go comes right through these, especially if you have like a Ford 9-inch or a regular like live axle type transmission, not independent, but these are important parts. Woo. Hot stuff. Try to get your work flat anytime you can. It's much easier than doing verticals. Get better looking welds. Let gravity work for you instead of against you. This is a hot wrench. Okay. Now I'm going to flip it. Try to get it in there. Those two pieces. There we go. Watching my bottle drop like a rock. This edge. Be ready for the next step. See how peaceful this is? Enjoyable. I'm going to show you what happens when we MIG weld in a minute. And I just hit it again. Nice work. Nice work. Hit it with the feeder, the filler wire. And I got a big blob on the end of it. Awesome. Those are shorties. Take a little break after this one, let the thing cool down. This is a Hobo Freight TIG. It's a Vulcan. It works really nice, but it's, it doesn't have like a water cooled gun or anything like that. suppose if you were doing this all day, every day, you'd want to let it cool down because you can just let it eat. Okay, nice. All right, speaking of which, I'm gonna let that cool down for a minute. I'll bring you back. All right, so while the TIG cools down a little bit, we'll break out the old MIG. Now, this is anti-splatter spray. This is so that when all the little stray beads that are flying all over the place don't get stuck to your work and you have to grind them off. Yeah, you'll see what I mean about not a comparable experience. Okay, do this. You can see, it's not the same experience. There's shit flying everywhere, sparks, smoke, little beads of weld flipping out. But, yeah, I welded with this for a lot of years before I started TIG welding, so it is what it is. There's a lot of race cars this way. Never really complained then. It's better than stick. All right, let's hit this side. Difference is all your energy comes through the wire. So you have to heat the metal with the wire as you're applying it. You can imagine that provides a lot of shock, thermal shock. With TIG welding, you're melting the material and then adding filler wire to it, which makes it, you know, less shock, less brittle, more malleable, more workable. But, you know, there's some places I just can't get to with TIG, like that's what I was doing terrible. So through there. So I just hit it with the MIG, clean it up with a brush, and forget it's in there. Okay, excellent. Let me get set up for the next stage here and I'll bring you back. Okay, so as you can see, I tapped this on. Did have to kind of tap it on there with a hammer because everything's so tight, but it's all perfectly square. It looks good. So I'm going to weld down this side first, and probably this, maybe even this tab first. Weld down this side, then I'm going to have to clamp down the other side to get it up to tie in everything tight. But we'll see. Hold on. Tips out a little far now for not working in a corner. Rule of thumb, I'm told, That's the other thing, you burn yourself a lot with tape. It goes right through your clothes, there's holes everywhere. They say the electrode can stick out pretty much the width of your cup as a rule of thumb. If you're in a corner, you can go a little further. If you're flat, you want to be a little shorter. But, you know, just do what makes you happy. I use main oxy for my gas contract. It's very convenient. I just call them up. Say, hey, I need a K bottle of straight argon. And it's here in a couple days. They just drop it off, pick up the old one. I don't have to bring it in. Hello. I think that's a K size bottle. That's really heavy. I have a hard time getting that up on the big stand. The other nice thing about TIG welding is if you mess something up, you leave a little pothole, a little pinhole, you can always go back and just heat it up. Blends right in. Like it never even happened. This piece is done. Bring those three welds together, just like that. Okay. Now, the very last piece that goes on this before it gets fitted to the chassis is this. Up this. Very nice. Just going to square that up. Same on both sides. Give it a little tap. Might actually, I'm going to grab a 3/32 instead of a 16th for this one. Just because it is such a wide gap, I know it's going to need more filler rod than I can give it with a little one. So I'm comfortable using this one. It's not really a gap, it's more of a wedge you got to fill. Because that'll get it so hot and melt it in the pocket with the primary heat. Look at that. Okay, now I'm gonna, again, I try to flip these up so that I can weld these fairly flat whenever possible. It's better for me, I don't know, I'm sure more experienced guys can knock that right out, but without much trouble. Do what you're comfortable with. Okay. Let's go see that. See the other side better. Knock this out. Here we go. It's that side. One more. Oh, a little hole right there. Right where it started, three pieces come together. Make a nice transition, but it looks better. It's always cosmetic, but you know, you're here. You're in the zone. Might as well make it look good. Go. And run down this side. That's it. Slap it on the chassis. about it for that. Next step is to fit these up to the chassis. All right, so that's where it is, all welded on. Basically, it just slips right in. There's a key here, key on the bottom, a key in the front. Slip it in, weld it, done. I haven't welded the bottom yet. I've got it tacked up, but I'll wait until I flip it over so I can do a nice job on that. But you can kind of see that that is a pretty stout little setup, and it drives all the force pretty much up through this rail and the other rail. So, yeah, pretty nice setup. So, okay, next. One thing I think I got to add to this is I need a couple of tabs on the frame for brake hoses for the rear end. So I'm gonna dig those out. I've got them in one of those totes up there, which ought to be great. Trying to find those. And then the rear bumper mounts are the next piece that goes on. So stay tuned. There, just put those on. I'll tack them up. That one actually looks like it's on a little crooked. I'll get those tacked on and weld them up. One on each side. Okay, so this is the rear bumper brackets. I already put the other one in, you know, so I wouldn't look silly showing you how to do this one. Like everything NerdRod does, it's keyed so it can only go one way. It's really nice. Now, if you have the low boy where the slam chassis, these are a different piece and they hook up and move the bumper bracket way up. But this is not the case on this one. I mean, not the slim, the high body, the regular stock mount. So unfortunately, they don't have a different one for the 1-inch height difference that we have. So we'll make that up out here. We'll build a bracket for the bumper. Actually, I'm not going to have a rear bumper. I'm going to do a roll pan. So there you go, problem solved. Going to just tack this in. So what I'm going to do, you can see I got my little square on here. I'm going to tack these to the frame, the mid sections to the frame, pull this plate off, weld those up nice, put that back on, and see what we have. We'll see how this goes. All right, there you go. That's the rear bumper mounts in. Looking good. Got my brake tabs in, brake hose tabs. Next, and I got the chassis moved up higher on the pivot so that I can roll it over easily. So, next thing I want to do is, well, let me show you this. This is exciting. All right, so Russell's gonna hate this, but check it out. So I drew up what I ultimately wanted to do for a gas tank. NerdRods has a gas tank kit that you can weld up, and the tank kind of goes up in here. It's very cool. It goes between these two mounts. It's about 20 gallons, and the filler net goes into the cab, up behind the seats, and out through the hole. Now, my problem is I'm going to need every bit of that leg room. So I really didn't want to have anything coming up in behind the seats. So I was pretty convinced of doing the bed fill. Russell's point is at NerdRods that, you know, you're putting a lot of weight behind the rear axle. And he's not wrong. It is a lot of weight. But, you know, if you can get it forward, fine. But I decided I wanted to go this route, and I was going to make one. I reached out to RCI, and they had a, hey, send us your drawing for a custom fuel tank type setup. So I did. I made a drawing, sent it up to him. The guy down there named Wayne, and literally, I sent it on a Monday evening, afternoon. He called me Tuesday afternoon, and here it is Saturday, and this thing turns up. Pretty much exactly what I asked for. Now, I wish I had gone about 1/4 inch narrower because I'm a little tight, but $350, custom built, ready to go, in the hole. So I'm just going to pull it out. All I got to do is sand these brackets a little bit on the back side.
and everything will be fine. So it's just the welds that are a little proud for me. So anyway, I cut my drawing too close. I should have been about a 1/4 inch, maybe even a 1/2 inch narrower, and everything would have been great. But here we are. So I'm gonna pop that out. And the nice thing is I can order as many of these as I want. So, you know, hats off to RCI. This is, again, not a sponsored conversation. Very, very pleased. The tank looks awesome, great welds. It comes all, you know, ready to go, pressure tested, good to go. So I'm pretty stoked about it. And yeah, he worked right off my drawing. So I basically, it's angled up, as you can see. It kind of comes up so it clears the sway bar. So there's no problem there. It's 18 gallons. And I have the hardware from Tanks Inc. to bring that up through the bed and have the fill cap in the floor of the bed. So pretty happy with that. Like I said, I just got to do a little sanding now, narrow it up a bit. Just, it's so close, but it's just too close right now. So yeah, there it is. I'm pretty happy with that. I will be making that work. There's no doubt. So, what's next? Oh my goodness. I've got a few riv nuts I got to put in the frame. I'm going to take and then flip it upside down and complete a lot of the bottom side welds that I haven't done yet. There's quite a few of them, but I do not have enough gas to do that right now. I am almost out. So I'll order another bottle of gas this week, get that sorted up, and see what happens. Then the next stage after that is I've got to add a few more pieces to my jig, screw in where all my bracket, you know, drill and tap all the bracket holes, mark them, and then I can forever reproduce this quickly right in this jig. I've also got to weld up these little, there's some extra slots in here. It looks like it's another cross member, like back there. I don't know why they're up there, but I do believe those need to be welded up. So when I'll flip it upside down, I'll get those sorted. It's much easier to roll over now that it's up on the higher pivot. But yeah, I'm pretty stoked about the gas tank. I think that'll work out great. It's got baffles in it. Should be a good setup. So, as long as it doesn't try to make the truck do a wheelie, we'll be all set. But anyway, let's just, we'll keep on rolling here. But I think that's where I'm gonna be for right now. Yeah, good weekend's worth of work here. I didn't, you know, like I said, these trailing arm mounts are quite a lot of welding. A lot of effort goes into those. So, you know, I knew that was going to take some time. But it is what it is. So here we are now, ready to start cleaning, you know. I'll show you where I go from here, but pretty happy with this chassis. I think this is going to work out really nice. Once I get the jig done, all the accessorized, bolted onto that, I will probably, you know, then flip it over, weld all the bottom plates, put the diamond plates on. So there's a few more things I need to do. Then I'm going to take the frame off the jig and put it straight onto the rotisserie by itself. And we can start, you know, checking out the K-member, maybe even test fit the rear end. You know, I got a lot of cleaning up to do on the welds, a lot of, you know, sanding, wire brushing. You can see it, just a little bit of wire brush work. I just happened to hit that with a wire brush and it cleans right up nice from, you know, what you see here. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I think I'm going to wrap this one up here today. Good progress. Feeling good about this. Just got to keep at it. The goal is I want to get this in paint soon so I can get, you know, winter's coming, so I got to get the boats put away. I got stuff to deal with, and I want this in paint before that happens so that I don't have to swap things around too much. But yeah, that's my plan.